Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to this conversation on wellness in the workplace. My name is Millen, and I'm with Grittium. Commercial real estate buildings use Grittium's data analytics to lower energy costs, manage utility bills, and analyze work order data, including preventive maintenance. Darin, introduce yourself.
Thanks, Millen. My name is Darin Bernstein, and I'm with Cushman and Wakefield as a sustainability project manager. We are a group that focuses on green building consulting, wellness in the workplace, and just general sustainability help for both our external and our internal clients.
That's great. Yeah, and I know that Grittium, we're very proud to work with some of Cushman buildings here in California, and I know that I'm looking forward to this conversation with you, Darin, about the WELL certification and how it relates to LEED certification. So part of this story will unfold, and to lay out an agenda for our audience, we will start at this simple question: where did WELL start? And then we'll go into the difference between WELL and LEED and how WELL is different. And then we'll finally dig into some details on what WELL actually looks like.
Great. So, Millen, I have a question for you. If you had to guess, how much time do we spend indoors in your average day?
Good question. Let me see. It's probably a lot, but I love riding my bike and take advantage of the beautiful territory here around San Francisco. I don't know. 80%?
Well, believe it or not, the statistic's actually 90%, and I
Wow.
think that actually could be even higher if you think about it. Love to say that we are all able to take advantage of getting out a couple of hours per day and riding your bike, taking a walk, whatever it may be. But
Yeah.
if you do the math, 90% of the day means that you're just under 2.5 hours outdoors. And
Yeah, that's
yeah, and
a
we
good point.
right, and we live in a place where the weather's good most of the year. It's not prohibitive to be outside, so a lot of people don't have the opportunity to stay outside for that long per day, and well, and just wellness in general, realizes that we are going to be spending all of our time indoors. So we need to make sure that that environment is both healthy and stimulating and also a productive one. So that's sort of how well and the well building standard came about.
Ah,
So well is really the next generation and next iteration of sustainability in the workplace. But the primary difference is that well is focused on the people in the building rather than the systems put in place. So well was formed in 2013 by the International Well Building Institute, similar to how the USGBC spawned the LEED rating system. And the well certification system has 298 projects registered to date. Of note, 126 of those are in the US, and the second highest number is actually 50 in China,
wow.
which is indicative of a strong demand for healthy and sustainable spaces.
Yeah, that's more
Um,
projects than I would have expected.
yeah, exactly. And LEED is an international standard as well, but I think it is typically most common in the US, obviously, and a small fraction of projects that are outside of the US actually certified. And as you know, LEED has been around for some time, actually started in 1998 and has 14,000 projects certified to date. So as I said, well is designed for people, and I think what it gives us as real estate or just generally anyone who works in commercial offices, it's a science-based standard. It's third-party verified, and it gives you something to build off of rather than just guessing your way through choices such as light or how should I arrange the office or what kind of incentive should I be giving my employees to be healthy. So it's more than just implementing the latest trends like an open workspace or bringing in your dog to the office. This gives an idea of how to follow steps that have been scientifically proven. And then also, of course, the recognition factor. Once you go through this process, you're recognized as a company that is taking steps to better their employees' health. And so while there are requirements for the physical aspects of your building, it also encompasses a lot of more traditionally HR aspects, like, for instance, paid maternity or paternity leave,
Mm,
or fitness subsidies, or just supplying healthier foods. So I think what you really want to look at here with WELL compared to, say, LEED is you're certifying the company and the people more than you're certifying your building.
mm.
So that's exciting to kind of think of this holistically and also address it from a variety of different angles.
Got it.
So, as I mentioned, to break down how WELL is classified, it's broken into 7 categories or concepts, and those touch on air quality, water quality, nourishment, light, fitness, comfort, and mind. Again, some of these are more familiar with green building and the infrastructure that goes in place in your air and lighting and even your water systems.
Sure.
Other things like comfort or mind are, a bit more cutting edge, if you will. And I think it's important that we consider the whole equation and talking about what is wellness in the workplace and what does that look like.
Yeah, it's interesting to see this list because, it pairs quite differently to LEED's leadership in energy and environmental design. And to see the list here of the factors going into what it means to occupy a space, what it means to be an occupant of the built environment, it is interesting to think of all the different vectors that go beyond energy and environmental design.
Right. And if you think about, or if you're familiar with the LEED system, it's taking the indoor environmental quality aspect of green building and really digging in deeper on all those categories.
Yeah,
And again, a heavy emphasis on the quality versus the quantity, which I
sure.
can talk about and explain more. Really the main concept here, I believe that WELL and green building are united and not in opposition to each other. Um, Ideally, they go hand in hand. You want to be able to have an efficient and comfortable building where people are able to be productive and feel like they're taken care of by their employer and by the building. Um, so, say the main differences between WELL and LEED, as I said, more emphasis on the people and the occupant versus the design of your building and how it's operating. Um,
Mm,
with WELL, you actually have more emphasis on the quality of the environment and how that impacts the people. So one other thing to note,
yep.
with WELL, you're actually able to receive an on-site visit and a performance testing from an assessor who, in some ways is able to make your life easier if you're going through certification. LEED is very much documentation focused. Um, there never is an on-site visit, never is anyone to kind of meet you, see the space, see the employees that are there. So you get a much more personal connection with WELL, and I think that helps in terms of getting things done quicker, and obviously having an ally in this versus just sending in paperwork to your reviewers.
Oh, yeah, I could see that would be quite helpful.
Bottom line is that they do go hand in hand, and actually there's a lot of overlap in terms of how they are reviewed. Both WELL and LEED projects are reviewed by the same organization, the nonprofit Green Building Certification Institute. So that gives a layer of continuity between
Sure.
these two projects
Yep.
systems. And of course, there are both shared goals to improve sustainability and also health outcomes within the building. A lot of the categories such as air and light or acoustics, they do mirror each other. Um, and we can talk about more in detail, but looking at how does the lighting affect my morale, or how does the lighting affect my sleep cycle, that is actually something that wasn't as well addressed in LEED, and WELL has taken that to the next step.
Mention having someone come in to help you with the certification. I bet some of the folks in our audience will be thinking to themselves, what the total project scope and average expected time for certification can be. So
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. It depends on how long your design process is going to take. You have up to 5 years to certify from the date that you register. You obviously are only able to have an assessor out once the building has been substantially complete and occupied. So it's dependent on your design schedule, but the documentation back and forth and the assessor visit doesn't significantly add too much time.
Great.
But it is worth noting that you actually receive certification for a period of 3 years, and you'd have to recertify every 3 years. Whereas in most of the LEED rating systems, once you earn a certification for, say, your design or your build out, that certification never expires. And so WELL is intent on making this performance-based and continually updating based on how your building is doing.
Interesting.
So we talked a bit about the people over and over again here, but really what is important to remember here, and what I think is indicative of how people are looking at the WELL building standard, your biggest asset in a building is not your lighting or your furniture or your mechanical systems. Over 90% of your cost is employees, and you need to remember that there's an ROI on the people in your building. So just to give you some examples of WELL credits that are somewhat more innovative and actually focus on this, there's heavy emphasis on lighting, as I mentioned. If you're not familiar with the circadian rhythm, I'm not sure if you keep track of that, Millen, but it keeps our body's sleep cycle regular.
Sure.
Via things like daylight and varying color temperature throughout the day. That's something that, a heavy emphasis on daylighting is always present in both LEED and WELL, but if you're not able to do that, say you have a building that just doesn't have great daylighting, or you have weird hours where it's dark most of the time, you have employees, WELL would look to actually design lighting with the proper color scheme, color temperature, so that you're able to actually mimic some of those cues that we normally get from daylight and we don't even really realize. So WELL in this case actually requires that you have 95% of all workstations within 40 feet of a window, and 75% of the area is within 25 feet of a window. So you're really focused on getting people out towards the exterior of the building, keeping the more interior core for mechanical and enclosed offices and storage and things like that. If you have an iPhone and you saw maybe 6 months or a year ago, they added a feature where your screen can actually mimic the color temperature of the day and the night, depending on what time it is. So it's all coming about as of, I'd say, the last couple of years, and WELL is continuing to push for that, realizing that there's now science-based evidence that this can actually improve your sleep. And obviously we know that sleep deprivation is a health issue WELL is trying to address here in the workplace.
Got it.
Another cool feature about WELL, natural nourishment. It's an emphasis on, if you provide any food or drink in your office, make it healthy, make it a good choice for people, and also try to encourage positive habits when people are not in the office. So, realizing that the World Health Organization estimates 2.7 million deaths per year from lack of fruit and vegetable intake. WELL advocates for having at least 2 fruits and vegetables in each offering, or 50% of the offerings being fruit and vegetables, and also limiting any kind of processed food or drink.
When you say offering, do you mean what's available in the building?
That's right. Anything that's purchased by the company for its employees.
Got it.
And this actually came up in one of our office build-outs, limiting processed food and drinks to 30 grams of sugar, trying to promote whole and natural foods. Well,
Hmm.
a lot of people in our office in particular really were connected to their Cokes and having available soda at the office. And so having that conversation that, we are trying to promote wellness and not encourage this sort of behavior, at first people are a little bit shocked and hesitant, but, after trying that for a couple of months, they realize, I just used to reach for the soda because it was there, and now I don't. So I haven't had a soda in months. And,
Yeah.
those are the kind of things that we'd like to continue seeing in the office, and Well's kind of pushing that as well. And then just quickly here, the fitness aspect of wellness in the workplace. You've probably heard a lot about sit-stand desks, or trying to get people off their chairs, and being active, having great just having the ability to do your daily tasks with alertness and without fatigue is important. And so creating a space that encourages walking around, using the stairs, having the ability to kind of work from different places. Those are some things that you've probably seen in a lot of the newer, more innovative build-outs around the Bay Area, but
Sure.
there's actually, evidence that this improves your health by getting you out and moving you around, getting you out of your seat.
I love this idea, especially it's something that I try to work on is in the afternoon when I'm taking my coffee break to get out of the office for a minute and to make a quick walk. I think those treadmill desks, which I've seen in some of the tech startups here in San Francisco, might be one step too far, but I see people using those treadmill desks and they seem to like them.
Yeah, Well likes it as well. There is an option to pursue active furnishings, it's called.
Ah,
Anything like a treadmill desk, or one of those bikes that you can work from.
to be honest, I
Um,
should try it. In fact, I am curious. I would like to try it. It does seem like it could be tough to focus, but I should try it first.
and yeah, finally, Well is obviously intent on creating a inviting, intriguing, and healthy workspace, and that means bringing nature in. So, there's scientific evidence that nature, having, either the imagery of it or plants and things like that around uh, people, actually improves the nervous system and reduces depression. And so there's things incorporated in Well, like just bringing nature into the environmental design and lighting, or using natural patterns with a term called biophilia, um, and also having actual physical nature inside, whether that's a living wall or plants within the office space, um, and of course encouraging, like you said, people to be able to walk around, having close proximity to parks, trails, outdoor areas. All that is getting people more and more connected to nature, and getting them out of the office as much as possible.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. It sounds like sort of the kind of space that I would want to work in, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, we're actually registered for Well in some of our new build-outs at Cushman Wakefield, and have another project that we've registered for a client in Silicon Valley. So,
Yeah, I'd love to check one out.
so just to kind of give you an example here, a quick story to end. Speaking of checking one out, this is the CBRE headquarters located in Los Angeles. They were the first commercial office space to achieve WELL certification under the pilot program in 2013. And there's been a lot of studies and obviously a lot of press releases based on this information, but just a couple of highlights. 92% of the new occupants said that the space had a positive effect on their health and well-being. 94% said it had a positive impact on their business performance.
Wow.
83% felt more productive, and 93% said they're more easily able to collaborate with others.
Hmm. That's phenomenal results, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what you'd hope when you go through a well project or a well build out. All of those things we maybe assume are going to happen, but they're
Sure.
actually able to have some results behind it. And so it's exciting to see this is kind of the direction that workplace and commercial real estate's going. And I hope that this rating system, along with LEED, takes off to help drive better decisions in corporate real estate.
And now you've just talked a little bit about a success at one of the first well certified spaces. What are some of the challenges you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, so as with any new system, there's going to be some kinks to work out. And, this is version 1. They just launched in 2014. So working out some of the details around which credits apply and which do not, whether they should all be equally weighted or not, which they are at the moment. LEED has worked from that initial version and realized that some things are more important than others, and also the fact that maybe the scoring system needs to be tweaked to help promote, the right design, but also reward those who go above and beyond. Well does have silver, gold, and platinum level of certification, just like LEED. But it's actually interesting to note that to earn silver, you only need to meet the prerequisites or preconditions of the rating system, which is about a quarter of the overall 100 credits. So, really, if you were just going for silver, some of the things that we've talked about and some of the more innovative approaches, you don't actually need to pursue those to get certified.
Is this applicable only to new buildings? I assume that there's a way to get a pre-existing space certified, or does the well program really only play best with either new construction or a build out of a floor in a pre-existing building?
No, that's a good question. So there's 3 different rating systems or rating types within well. The first being any sort of new construction, new building. The second being core and shell. You can actually not get well certified, but well compliant on the core and shell build out. Obviously, some of the elements of fitting out a building or having policies in place for the employees. If you don't have those yet, you can't really go for those credits. Then there is an existing interiors ratings typology. So it's available to anyone, both new and old.
And Darin, can you provide a little bit more color on like how best to get started and what the expectations would be for someone hoping to get their space certified?
Sure. So the best way to begin is to consider an analysis of what potential well credits do we already have and where do we fall short through some kind of gap analysis. And there's a very easy tool to check on registration on the well website. That's wellcertified.com. You can plug in your square footage, you can plug in some other parameters and figure out what this is going to cost and find out how to get involved with next steps.
And the results seem to be quite interesting ROI. Well, hey, I want to be conscientious of our audience's time. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up, Darin?
If you have any other questions about well or about sustainability in your workplace, feel free to reach out to me. My email here, Darin Bernstein at cushwake.com. And we look forward to seeing how this rating system develops and where it goes.
Thank you for the time, Darin. And if folks have questions about Grittium, please email us info@grittium.com. And thank you.
Thank you.